Ball's Junior Basketball Association will be funded by his big baller brand. For more on this idea, let's take it back to First Take.
Antonietta, thank you kindly. So LaVar Ball's Junior Basketball Association for nationally ranked players who have graduated from high school but don't want to go to college. Max, I'll start with you. Do you like, love, or just hate this?
I love this, and it's very LaVar Ball. Whatever else you want to say about him, there doesn't seem to be artifice there. There doesn't seem to be hypocrisy there. He says what it is. He sends his kids to school, to college, to UCLA, a great institution. He sends them there to play basketball. Not about an institution of higher learning. It's to play basketball. And for so many collegiate athletes who hope to go on to a pro career, especially in the last couple decades, that's what college is. And the NCAA is, for many, a glorified minor league, especially for the NBA. And it's a great minor league because it also builds stars. So by the time the player is developed enough to play in the pros, ostensibly developed enough, they're already stars. And so it works out for everyone except the student athlete who never really wanted to be a student, who really just wanted to play basketball. Whatever I personally think about that, go to college, enrich your life, become a fully formed adult, have that experience. That's not my business, really. We live in America. People can make that determination for themselves and for their children, and that's none of my business. And so for people who just want to go play basketball, this is great, and I love it because even the pay scale, $3,000 for the bottom-ranked kids a month, $10,000 for the top-rated guys, the NCAA's got to be hoping this doesn't work out because we're not talking about making the NCAA athletes rich by and large, although some of them deserve to be. We're talking about paying them money so they can walk around and not do things like, I don't know, shoplift. And get into other kinds of trouble or accept money under the table because they are being compensated like anyone else amateur who does anything amateur in college. If they're a musician, whatever, it's not prohibited from making money, in other ways. So the point is, I don't know if this is going to work. It's very unlikely that any new league ever works long run, but I love the idea, Stephen A. I love the idea.
Well, I don't love it. And I don't hate it. So the operative word would be like. And a couple of points that I'd like to make. You religiously bring up, whether or not somebody has the right to do something. Nobody's challenging their right. We're asking you how you feel about it. And anytime somebody does something in public view, folks have an opportunity and have a right to have an opinion about it. Just like, and that's what we're doing. It's one of those situations where you look at LaVar Ball right now, you can't hate on it because anything that provides additional opportunities for the youth in our country to go about business of monetizing themselves in a legal and productive fashion, it's something that we should applaud and we should support if we can. It's why I support Ice Cube with his 3-on-3 ball tournament in the offseason, in the NBA offseason. I'm incredibly proud of what Ice Cube has been doing. Guys like LL Cool J and others have been adamantly supporting him in his venture in that regard. And I think we should continue to do so. This is something, obviously, that we have to look at it with some skepticism, because the first question that I would have is, where's the big baller getting the money from? Somebody with deep pockets behind the scenes is clearly willing to finance the big baller brand, because how could you afford to pay somebody $10,000 per month? Some of the marquee guys, I'd like to see you pull that off. What kind of money are you getting? What are you generating from it? So it's a question mark there. Again, I don't hate it because those kind of opportunities present more opportunities for our youth who aspire to be professional athletes someday. So I definitely applaud that. But the reason why I can't love it is because of LaVar Ball. And what I mean by that is saying this. I appreciate his entrepreneurial spirit. I appreciate the fact that he stands up for what he believes in and he's unapologetic about it. But just because I appreciate it and I genuinely like him doesn't mean that we get to approve of every single thing that he does. Think about the things that he does. The way you bloviate, the way you talk, and the way you're pulling your son out of high school, you're pulling your son out of college. You've got to wonder what kind of message that sends. You also have to wonder about who's really going to support you in terms of advertisers and sponsors willing to patronize your brand. Again, you may have some folks, but then again, you may not. It's a question mark. And when you look at the history of the Ball family, clearly he was exceptional because People have looked at Lonzo Ball this year and wondered whether or not he deserved to be a lottery pick. But because of LaVar Ball, not only did he get picked number 2 overall, the Lakers were pressured into having to take him. There was no way they could pass up on him. That was genius. But pulling your son out of high school, pulling another son out of college, your son goes to another country, he commits robbery, and you're saying that it's not a big deal. It may not be that big of a deal, but that's not something you need to be articulating publicly as a parent. Some people will look at stuff like that and then wonder, why should a kid straight out of high school be associated with your brand? These are the kind of questions. So it comes down to how he's going to conduct himself, how he's going to conduct business, what is he going to do to facilitate growth? Because it's one thing to give folks $10,000, or, which is only some of them. It's another thing entirely to leave them ill-prepared for the real world when it comes to paying bills and doing what you got to do to elevate your stuff and your quality of life. What is he doing to assist in that regard when you're talking about financing young kids? All of these things factor into the equation, and I don't think they could be ignored.
By the way, I hear what you're saying, and sure, you can take it on a case-by-case basis and say, I agree with this piece of behavior from LaVar Ball. I disagree with that. There's plenty to disagree with.
And I genuinely like him. I do like him.
I think the overall brand is authenticity, a lack of pretension, a lack of artifice, a lack of hypocrisy, kind of living your life out loud, not kind of conforming to standards that you think aren't good. And by the way, he's basically a fun-loving guy. Like, LaVar Ball transcends sports and winds up on news networks and stuff, and even disarms hard-bitten kind of journalists who think they're doing a hard-hitting interview with him. They wind up laughing at the end because he's basically looking to have a good time, and he's welcoming people in. He's not kind of keeping them at arm's distance. So all those things, I think, are on people's minds when they he's loud and all that stuff, no doubt, but I don't think that's as much of a turnoff to many as many feel, I think.
Well, it's not just about the loudness though, Max. It's about how you conduct yourself. Listen, we're on the airwaves every day. We might be demonstrative and bombastic with button heads. We're going at each other and what have you. But there are a lot of things both you and I wish we had the freedom to do, Max. But we work for people. We have an obligation to be responsible not just to ourselves, but the brands we represent, et cetera, et cetera. And when you take that into consideration, what it does is send the message that you are accountable, that you don't get to operate with impunity, that you don't get to just do what you want, when you want, how you want, to whomever you please, with no repercussions whatsoever. If ever there was a time where you needed to send that message to our youth, it's now. I don't do what I do just for me. I do what I do to make sure that the kind of impact that I have, I'm showing the way towards success. It's not the only way to do things, and I understand that, and there's plenty of better examples than me. But in the end, that has to be the mission. That has to be the goal. It can't just be all about me. It can't just be all about LaVar.
That's a great
and
point.
Sometimes that's not what he's doing.
That's a great point, particularly in our national politics, everything right now. Societal norms are a good thing. They exist for a reason. And yet, because we are constantly subject to them, when we occasionally see, as a culture we see, an example that contradicts them, that doesn't live by those rules, that is not as constrained by them, we can live vicariously through that person a little bit, and we like them on the scene. And I think that's LaVar Ball, and I don't see anything in this proposed league that would be so damaging to the youth. And incidentally, it's not mutually exclusive with college.
We don't know that.
You really want to go to college, you can do that too.
All right. I want to see the Big Three Ice Cubes League go against the Big Baller League in a little exhibition game. Young Guns versus the Vets. That would be fun. But we want to know what you think in our Twitter poll question of the day. Do you like LaVar Ball's idea, bless you, of the Big Baller Brand League? Well, we'll share those results a little bit